Welcome to the Back Nine Six Pack with Mitch and Justin. Let's roll.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Back Nine Six Pack. My name is Mitch, joined as always by my esteemed colleague Justin. Just absolutely massive news in the world of golf this week.
Breaking news.
Justin Epier is a Hall of Famer. Let's go.
I will tell you this. I got the news today that I was going to be inducted into our high school's Hall of Fame. And I was obviously excited. I'm super excited about it. I think I've told at least 50 people. What it was really cool to me is when I told my parents how they were crazy excited about it, which because I've had a lot of family go through there, and it's going to be really cool. And the second golfer to go in. There's only one other golfer in right now. Super excited about it. It's going to be a hell of a weekend come September 1st.
Yeah, that's a fantasy draft weekend. We might get a little Corey and golf outing together, kind of to celebrate you going in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah.
Getting back together.
Let's do it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Whew. Okay, there we are.
Cheers, buddy. Well, anyway, the other golf news this week.
Yeah, that's the important stuff. We'll get to the less important stuff now.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's heard by now, clearly. The PGA Tour and the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, I should note, along with the DP World Tour, have all come to some sort of...
You can't forget about that.
Yeah, some sort of framework agreement to, quote-unquote, merge. The headline was Live and PGA Tour merge. Not necessarily what's happening here.
There's almost zero details, realistically, of how it's going to actually look.
It basically, from all the stuff that I read, sounds like, the PIF is going to be investing in the tour, getting a minority stake, having a, seat on the board. But everyone keeps...
seat, right?
I believe a seat for the time being. Sounds like a ton of money's coming in. Jay is going to be the CEO of this new company that's for profit, which I guess frees the tour up to do a lot of stuff they couldn't do as a nonprofit.
By the way, absolute power move of the century to go behind everybody's back, talk shit about said investor, and then just make yourself CEO of all golf, all professional golf across the world.
Yeah.
Absolute underrated power move by him, by the way.
I mean, just what... I don't know. We can talk about this in a little bit too, but I just don't even know how he's going to continue to have this job personally.
Yeah, and I don't know who
pulls the strings on if he does.
Because I feel like the people that were in the room, if you've read a lot about it, there was really only, call it 4 people in the room. They're both, the other 2 guys are kind of on his side. So, it doesn't, who knows? I mean, now it's do they even do the players actually have the power to kick him out?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
I don't know that. I don't know the bylaws of the PGA Tour or anything like that or how that works. I know there's a player board, right?
Yep.
But do they actually have the power to be bye, Jay? Vote on it and kick him out? I don't think they do, honestly.
Yeah, there's, obviously tons of stuff because there's no details. Tons of stuff flying around about this not making it through a player approval or board approval or the Department of Justice possibly getting involved. I mean, it's kind of wild to think about where things were just a year ago to how they got to where they are now. And it just seems like I think we're a long way away from this actually being legit and finalized.
Yeah, because you have both sides, right? Jay Monahan comes out and says, the PGA Tour is still going to be the PGA Tour, right? Still going to have the same tournaments. We're, obviously the purses and looks of that might be different with the influx of money that's coming in. But then you have Liv come out and says, well, we're still going to be the same as we are now. It's how is that going to work? Are you, obviously with the World Golf, the World Golf tournaments kind of out now. I mean, maybe does that open a window for, guys to go on teams and play a team event, in those weeks where they don't have anything anymore? Because in my sight, that it looks to me like the PGA Tour is looking to reduce their schedule more than they are to grow to other tournaments. So maybe that does open the door if the PGA Tour is well, this sponsor, they're gone.
Yep.
we're going to play, you're going to have the option to be able to play these team events in these weeks now that these sponsors are gone, like the Honda Classic. I've heard Honda's been unhappy for like 10 years.
They officially pulled out.
Yeah, I think they officially pulled out. Yeah. So is that a tournament where it's like that's when you can play in a live event on a team if you choose to do so? Well, if they're $30 million pots or $20 million pots and there's 40 people in these tournaments, you damn well better believe that these people are going to go play. The top players are going to go play in these tournaments.
Yeah,
whether they like team golf or not.
I think Live will cease to exist after this year, assuming this deal goes through. Sure, there might be some form of it in which, like they, to your point, like maybe they do a fall series. It's team golf. That's quote unquote Live golf, whatever.
Yeah,
but I don't think there's going to be anything left of Live as we know it currently.
No, and obviously the person that said that was Greg Norman, right?
Right.
Of course he's going to say that because that's his job, right? Like if Live as we know it ceases to exist, he's out of a job. Jay Monahan's not going to be like, well, we're going to have Greg Norman run this. No, that's not going to happen. It's been well documented that rift, right?
Yeah.
So of course he's going to say that, because that's his job, So I don't know. I mean, how I stand is one, obviously no one likes where that money comes from, right? Which I find it crazy that one of the guys that was in the room when this was happening had an investment firm in the World Trade Centers.
Yeah, that'd be Jimmy
and lost
Dunn.
friends in 9/11.
Correct.
And he was part of a broker of this deal, right?
I mean, he was like the guy.
He was the guy, yeah. Right? So no one likes where this money comes from. But I do enjoy the fact that I think this is going to be good for the fans in the long run of getting these top guys come back rather than 4 times a year.
Okay, let's pause on that because what I want to do instead of just we could throw speculation and shit at the wall all night long.
Yeah.
I want to kind of just take through and let's kind of role play some of these different perspectives. Not really role play it, but talk about why the people involved in this did what they did, and then how moving forward what things could look like. Right. So, Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour. You got to this spot essentially because of what Jay did leading up for the last year, right? Pretty much backed the tour into a corner to where
it's the us versus them.
And it was going to get to a point where they basically had to come to an agreement with them. Yes. Because there's no way that the tour could continue to bleed legal fees and fight this battle dollar for dollar.
Not when you're fighting a fund that has $400 billion in it.
Exactly.
They're just going to be like, oh, you want to get in a legal battle? Okay. Here's hundreds of millions of dollars to fight these legal battles for the next 35 years. PGA Tour won't have that.
Right. So, totally understand why the tour and Jay and Jimmy Dunn, et cetera, did what they did. What it means going forward in terms of, there's the whole thing, how do they make the players whole? The guys that stayed, like Rory and JT and Spieth and Rahm and all these guys that passed up on hundreds of millions of dollars. So Jay's promising they're going to somehow make it up to them for their loyalty. Who knows what that will look like?
Yeah.
This is why I talked about I don't understand how Jay is going to have this job at the end of all this.
No, and you said it perfectly, right? You said he backed him into a corner.
Yeah.
The proper way to play this, now, again, hindsight's 20/20, right?
And different time frame, yeah.
But I even thought this in the time, I'm like, if you make this a rift, dudes are going to decide whether they want to make more money in these tournaments or not, and if they get kicked off these tours, they're like, so I'm going to make more money and play less? Okay. A lot of guys, what should have happened was that he should have been like, look, if you want to play in these tournaments, you can go play in these tournaments. If you can muster up the morality to understand where this money's coming from and be okay with that, and you want to go play in these tournaments, go play in them. But, if you don't want to, you don't have to, right? That's the way you should have played it, because there's a lot of guys, like Taylor Gooch, he signed up for the first one and was like, all right, I'm going to go play in this tournament, and then come back the next week and play in the PGA Tour, and then they were just all of a sudden like, no, you can't come back. So he was not going to go and just keep playing in these tournaments. He was just going to play in one just to see what it was about and then come back to the PGA Tour. But that's how he should have played it. But you're right. He backed himself into a corner. And the only way out was at some point he was going to have to cut a deal.
Yeah, and
they just didn't have the money to fight them that long.
Right. And the other problem with this is like doing it the way he did, now you just look like the world's biggest hypocrite, right?
Yeah, because you know, a year before this deal happened, right? He said something along the lines of, you know, kind of, I mean, just strictly bashing Liv. I don't know exactly what he said, but a year later, exactly opposite of what he said happened, right? So, yeah, and again, yeah, you can't back yourself in a corner like that and give yourself one option, because that's essentially what he did.
Yeah, that's what I tweeted the Brian Windhorst meme on Tuesday when this all came out. So Jay Monahan on June 9, 2022, this collective legacy can't be bought or sold, in reference to the PGA Tour. And then on June 6th of this year, we're pleased to move forward with the Liv and PIF's world-class investing experience. And this is on the same day where he invoked the 9/11 families.
Yes.
And said, well, our players don't have to worry about, you know, answering to that question, right? So, I mean, I just massive egg on Jay's face. I don't know how he...
And the 9/11 Foundation absolutely came out and blistered him, as they should have. I mean, they absolutely roasted him.
Yeah.
Like, that day. It was like that Wednesday when then all this happened. They came out and absolutely roasted him. Or Tuesday, excuse me. And rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, if I'm sitting as Jay Monahan and I've got someone who's bringing a ton of money and equity to the table that can, quote unquote, reunite the men's professional game, you know, bring all the best players to one place, like, I understand from his perspective why the deal is done. Do I agree with it? Probably not.
Yeah.
Still kind of complicated. I don't really know how to feel. I want to see how more details come out. I mean, there's precedent for this in sports. Like, they're involved in soccer. They're involved in F1.
Yeah,
like,
they're involved in a lot of different sports right now.
Yeah. And so...
And I've heard, when all this came out, like, they've even been rumored about trying to get an NFL game in Saudi. So they're in a lot of different sports. But, you know, I can't remember. I want to say this because I saw it and read it, and I was like, that is just kind of along the same lines of what you just said. It was like Jay Monahan was playing checkers, and the people that run PIF were playing chess. And he moved his pieces into the perfect spot that they wanted him to move his pieces in. And and exactly what happened. Now they have a seat at the table in the largest tour in the world.
Yeah, so moving on to the next...
And that's honestly, I truly believe that's all Liv was built to do. They wanted a seat at some point, and they knew that at some point they were going to get a seat at the table at the PGA Tour, and it worked out.
Yeah, so moving on to, you know, Yasser and the PIF's point of view here, 100% you're correct. The only reason Liv happened is because I think the tour basically said no when they tried to initiate conversations to just do this, what they're doing now.
Whether that's documented or not, that's 100% probably what happened.
Because from their side, they don't want to just keep throwing money at this thing that's, you know, it's an investment fund.
They're not in the business of losing money.
Yeah, they're not in the business of running a sports league either, right? So they basically set up and started up Liv to back the tour into a spot where we are today. Worked out, clearly. And to your point, yeah, this is about buying a seat at the table with some of the biggest corporations, most powerful people, you know, globally in the U.S., et cetera, to try to make it more, I guess, like amicable for them to do business and more normal to do business with Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia companies. That's truly what all this is about.
Yeah, 100%. That's all it's about. So I mean, think about the sponsors for tournaments of the PGA Tour.
Right.
It's all the biggest companies in the country and sometimes internationally, right?
Exactly.
You know, they've got to be ecstatic. I mean, I honestly think what happened is what they wanted to happen. But I think realistically in their heads, they were probably thinking it was going to be like a 3 to 4 year process and happened in 1 year.
Yeah.
Actually, just shy of 1 year. So, and now assuming this goes through, you know.
Yeah, assuming this goes through, I think it's almost unquestioned that it feels like the PIF is, you know, the biggest winner in this, right?
Yeah.
Yasser.
Yeah, and you know, the craziest thing is this fund is, you know, there's congressmen and stuff that we talked about it before we came on here, that are talking about antitrust and stuff like that. And it's like, and maybe it's more emotionally where they don't like where the money's coming from. But it's like, okay, then you have to go because they're invested in a lot of different things in our country, right? So is that it's like you can't just say, well, they can invest in this, but they can't invest in that. That's kind of a hard thing to do. So it's going to be interesting to see what that legal battle shakes out. And again, PIF's not really worried about it. They have so much money they can fight any legal battle they want, realistically. So, but they've got to be ecstatic. It took a year for them to get a seat at the table.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just from like a PR perspective, just thinking about this, like pretty much Jay went on national TV and said like, hey, we eliminated a competitor. So if I don't know how any of this law and this stuff works, but you probably
shouldn't have said that.
If you have any concerns about an
antitrust
lawsuit, anything to eliminate this deal,
probably shouldn't have said that.
You don't say that and put it out there in plain
English.
But
he felt like he had to say that because it would look better to the players, which from a spot and maybe sponsors and stuff like that. Like, look, our best players aren't going to be going anywhere else now. They're going to be under our control, and they're going to come and play in your tournaments. But again, from an antitrust. The PGA Tour lawyer probably was like,
dude, their PR team, the lawyers,
had his head in his hands, like, what the fuck is this guy saying up there?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that to me, either they're just completely incompetent at the PGA Tour, or they have a good feeling about all of this being, able to get through without issue.
Yeah.
Because you don't just go up there and start saying that kind of stuff.
From an attorney standpoint, you just got to be like. That's like your client going up there and admitting to murder on the stand.
Right.
Like, yeah, I murdered them. What are you going to do about it? Kind of thing.
No.
So, yeah, it's, God. But the players.
Exactly. Moving on to the players here. The PGA Tour players, which I guess now would also include the LIV players, assuming this goes through. I mean, it feels right now like the guys that took the LIV money have won.
Like freaking geniuses.
Look, it's really bad, really tough when, you got to look up as a golf fan and you're admitting that, Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, Phil Mickelson, all winners in this, which it remains to be seen, how things are set up. They have to buy their way back, kind of whatever. I don't know. But
or pay some kind of fine. I mean, the fine would have to be $50 million for any of these guys to really care.
Yeah. If you're, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, etc., like, even if you're a run-of-the-mill PGA Tour player, like, how do you
Because, those guys would have got a couple million to go over there and play.
Sure.
And at the very worst, they would have accumulated some money over the last year that there would nowhere even come close to making on the PGA Tour. Some of these mid-level guys, like, again, Joel Damon's obviously been very outspoken for all this time. He's like, I don't even know if I got an offer. Probably not because I suck. Like, that's kind of been his stance on it. But think about Joel Damon, top 70 in the world. He'll probably make $1 million this year, call it $1.5 million, okay? If he just goes over and plays in all their tournaments for a year, he's probably making $10 million or $8 million.
Yeah.
And if he wins one, he's probably making over $10 million.
Right.
So, it's guys like that those are the ones that are affected too. It's like he could have easily gone and done that for a year and came back.
Yeah.
And his life would be completely different. But the guys like Rory, I don't I like Rory and he's got all the money in the world. He makes $10 million before he even hits a shot on the PGA Tour.
Sure.
So money, but there is something to be said about this guy that lays his neck out on the line and then just gets it chopped off, but from what he thought was his friend. That sucks. That hurts.
I mean, he was the guy that was. You didn't see Jay Monahan up there every week at a press conference talking about this stuff.
It was him every week.
Yeah, and he made the comment about feeling like a sacrificial lamb. Being hard not to feel that way, which I completely agree with. Like, I can't even imagine you can almost see it like when he's at these tournaments a lot, like the toll that this took on him.
Yeah, because he kind of took on last year. He kind of took on that. I'm the guy that needs to lead this parade of against the LIV Tour.
Yep.
And whether that was maybe someone talked to him, like, you got to take a leadership position in this, or whether he just decided to do it himself, either way, still not fair to him. Even if he felt personally like he had to do that, it still sucks because he would have got he could have got $600 million and right off into the sunset, and then came back a year later.
Yeah,
and not gone through all that. So,
yeah, I think I just from seeing the tweets and everything fly in throughout the last week, like I don't think I saw a single, just like positive remark from a tour player.
None.
Lots of guys just like, how can I even like trust this organization? How can I trust Jay? Like just completely eroding all the goodwill that he attempted to build up over the last year.
And I think all the goodwill that he did build up with getting designated events, making pot sizes bigger, even for the non-designated events, like all this good that he did was completely shot after this.
Yeah. And a guy like Rory, I think you saw in his quotes, understands that part, right? Where it's like he knew that the tour had been, digging into reserve funds and they're blowing all this money on legal fees and like it wasn't sustainable.
No, not for a long period.
Yeah. So like he even had some comments about like, like this was going to happen at some point most likely, and at least the way that it's going down in framework is that the tour still has control.
Yeah.
So he's almost, you can see it, just this last week, like resigned to the fact that this was going to happen. And,
because and realistically, that it was not sustainable unless you kept going back to sponsors and be like, hey, instead of 20 million FedEx, we're going to need 50 million this year. Like, eventually your sponsors are going to go, fuck you, no.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're screwed, essentially. So.
All right, we kind of touched on live players a little bit, but
I can't wait for Phil. If this goes through, I cannot wait for Phil's first tournament he plays in. You are going to hear about how big of a genius he is. That's just the type of guy he is. And honestly, again, I've never been a huge Phil fan. I like him. Like I thought for what his career, it's been, he's obviously had an incredible career. But if I was him and I made this decision for the best of my family or whatever, and then I made it out to be like this horrible person with the book and stuff like that came out, I would 100% go in and dance on people's graves. And he's going to. He's going to. You're going to hear about how much of a genius he is immediately when he gets back on tour.
It's going to be awesome one day when we're like, I don't know, 45, 50, probably 50. The Phil 30 for 30 series.
Oh, it's going to be electric.
Yeah. There's so much stuff that we just like don't know. Like you hear rumblings and you have some ideas.
Yeah, like
stuff.
He likes to gamble and this and that. And yeah.
And I mean, it's just what a wild experience.
Yeah.
There's just so many moments. Like that's really the unfortunate part in all of this is like he just kind of comes out as like really unlikable and sort of a villain in this whole era after. I mean, I thought like he is
before he left. I thought he was at the height of his popularity.
Yeah, I mean, he won the freaking PGA Championship.
Those people crowding around the greens, like everybody's happy for him. He's in his 50s. He wins a major, and like the height of popularity. And then next year, he's got a book written about him, and all this not so pleasurable stuff comes out. And
I mean, the non-Tiger division of golf moments the last 20 years are like almost all of Phil Mickelson.
All of them, yeah, almost all of them.
And he's a lot like Jordan Spieth, and why we love Spieth so much. Just like the roller coaster rides of his golf rounds are just incredible.
Yeah, and I would say this: however you feel about Phil, you don't like him, you like him, whatever. I mean, if this goes through, he changed golf. He was the first one that took that money, and now he's got billions of dollars rolling back into the PGA Tour, and he's going to be able to. He got $200 million. He's going to be able to come back. I mean, whether you like him or not, he changed golf for the good or for good or bad, however you want to see it. He changed it. So.
Yeah,
it's kind of undeniable at this point.
I think, again, you and I both listen to No Laying Up a lot. I think, I forget how they describe it, but it was a lot about, like, he sort of just backed into it. Like, he kind of got lucky because it was like, not that he got lucky per se. I think he wanted to use it as leverage, as he himself said, and then kind of got stuck because the quotes came out and he was like, oh shit, now I actually have to like go do this.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so it's worked out for him, a year later, but I don't think this is the way he thought it would work out, right?
Yeah, no, so. I don't think, this is not the specific way, or I don't even know if I think part of him probably thought, I'm going to be I'm not going to be playing good enough golf to even see the other side of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think realistic, if you asked him, he'd write, well, you know, probably 7 to 10 years from now, there'll be some kind of merger and everybody will be playing on the same tour again and stuff like that. I don't think he thought it was going to be a year later.
No.
If he says he did, he's a liar,
Right.
you know, because I don't even think he thought that would happen.
The biggest winners amongst the live guys got to be like, you know, your Brooks and DJ, like, you know, the guys that everyone like kind of understood why they went and they were honest about it. And so they went and got the bag, and now they're coming back.
Yeah, and like a Harold Varner, like he was very open about it. He was like, "I'm taking the money," you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the, I mean, the
they're
guys
going to be able to come back now, and like those guys are still in their prime.
Right. I mean,
I don't see enough of DJ, but DJ is still well in his prime.
Right.
You know,
the ones that I think are going to, I don't even know if they'll be back or not, but like the guys like Lee Westwood and Sergio and just like completely nuked every bridge across the way.
Yeah, they were not great about it.
Even Bryson, like he was one of the plaintiffs in the initial lawsuits. Like that's a complicated one. I'm sure he'll come back. He's entertaining. He draws crowds. Like that's fine. But there's still some stuff they got to work through. With these guys coming back.
I'm not looking forward to Patrick Reed coming back. Just full disclosure.
No, it was really nice to just like not worry about him.
Not see him every week or every other week or whatever he played. God, I think out of all the guys that are coming back, he's like my least favorite for sure. Like if he could just stay and play somewhere else, I'd be very happy about that.
He still might. What if he might decide to go with Greg Norman. They're going to start up another tour.
God, the shitter tour.
Yeah. All right, that's for the live players. So last, you kind of touched on this before, but just from the fan perspective.
It's a win.
So, okay. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it after Oak Hill. It was like, even Bryson, it's like, damn, it's way more fun when he's playing. Like, however you feel about him, it's like him being there, and, you know, he's trying to nuke bombs 360. You're like,
he's hitting PGA professionals with his drives. Like,
yeah, it's more fun. Because he is, whether you hate him or not, or like him or whatever, he's one of the best players in the world, and it's fun. It's more fun having him around. You know, it just is. There's a lot of guys I don't like that I'm like I hate Patrick Reed, but realistically, when he's playing his best, he's one of the best players in the world, and it's more fun to root against him than not have him in the field at all. So,
yeah, this is the thing that's complicated about it, right? Where it's like, yes, do I want to see all these guys playing the same tour? Sure. Do I want it to be this way?
Oh, no.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
But it's just one of those things, and this is, I mean, to use the word, like, sports washing, that's how this stuff works, right? Like, you just kind of go numb to it, and
you're like,
you won't even see the Aramco
2 years from now,
signs.
people are going to be like, who did they merge with again? Like,
yeah.
Like, I know it was Liv, but, like, who was it? Again, gone. Out of 50, 60% of people 2 years from now are going to be like, completely forget about where this money came from. They're just going to be like, oh, there's the Memorial's got a $35 million pot this year or something. You know what I mean?
Right,
something along those lines. Or the PIP money is now, for the winner, is $20 million instead of $10 million. Like, you're just going to hear everybody talk about the money that's involved in golf now and not necessarily like, well, where did that money come from? Because they're going to forget about it as soon as we get down the road 2 to 3 years from now, most people forget about where it came from.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be seen in terms of like what this new, because like I said, they're doing the new for-profit organization. Like, what is this tour actually going to look like? What's the schedule going to look like? How many sponsors drop out because they don't want a part of this? There's lots of things up in the air that could still be changed moving forward.
But that's where it's like, someone had brought that up about the sponsors, right? Mm-hmm. It's very easy to do that when it's like, you have this tour over here and this tour over here. You can be like, I want nothing to do with that, right?
Right.
But when it's all under one roof, Chevron, is it more beneficial for them to drop their sponsorship with the PGA Tour or keep it? Well, with the Saudis being involved, Chevron has business interests in Saudi Arabia and all that. That's, again, where it's going to be like their morality, right, only reaches so far, and then it's like, well, man, we do business with them. It's going to be really hard to be like, well, we're not going to have a tournament now because that money's from you. And it's like, well, we already do business with them. So, you know what I mean? Like, when you think of it in that, it's like, while people are like, there might be a couple sponsors that say, I don't want nothing to do with this. But realistically, there's 99% of the sponsors are going to be like, they're just going to stay quiet, essentially, and then just hope that you don't get mad at them for, still having the Chevron in Texas or, whatever. It might be a FedEx Cup or whatever. They're just going to kind of stay quiet.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that the majority will probably stick around. The only way I could see it changing is like maybe the sponsorship dollars just get so ridiculously high that some companies are like, whatever.
It's not worth the money anymore. Yeah.
But otherwise, you're probably right. And that's how this all works, right? It's about normalizing business relationships with the Saudi Arabian government. So
money talks.
Money does talk.
Clearly.
We've talked a lot about this as if it is going to happen. So I do have one hypothetical for you. What happens if this deal doesn't go through?
I think you'll see Liv continue for another couple years. After that, I just don't see it lasting for more than another couple years. Because if the Saudis just go, we're never going to get a seat at this table if it doesn't go through, they're just going to scrap it. Like you said, they have plenty of money and they're willing to throw money at something as long as there's an end game. If Liv is just Liv and there's no end game of them getting a seat at the table or anything like that, I find it hard to believe they're just going to continue doing this for another 15, 20 years.
I don't know how the tour would have any leverage if this deal doesn't go through.
None.
So my concern is like, it's gone, right? Like if this deal doesn't go through, if you're Rory McIlroy, like you're like, well, you just showed your face and you were going to take that money. Why shouldn't I take that money?
Yeah, well, I would tell you that you will definitely see more guys take that money.
Yeah.
If there's like an antitrust lawsuit and they're like, you can't do this. Maybe not Rory because he's still taking the pretty hefty stance of like.
Sure, he might be a bad example, but
like
if you're John Rahm, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, all these guys that have been.
Colin Morikawa hasn't played the best this year. It's like, well, Jay, you were going to take that money.
Right.
What are you to judge me that I'm going to take that money now? Or, like we said, the mid-level guys. Joel Damon. Like, these guys that are like, they're going to keep their cards, but are they going to, like, they look at that and go, man, I can go over there and play, like, pretty good golf and make $8 million. Yeah. Or I can play pretty to really good golf and make $2 million. Like, to me, that's to someone like Joel Damon's a brand new dad. To me, if it was that, I'm like, I get to play half the time and spend time with my family and make $6 million more a year, I'm taking that money. Clearly, they have no problem with taking it. So, yeah, they would have no leverage with the players after this. Zero.
Yeah, that's the part that is like, holy shit, like what could happen if it doesn't go?
And maybe that's Piff's end game, right? Like, if this doesn't go through, now Piff's like, no, you're merging with us. Like, kind of deal. Like, this is how golf's going to be. Maybe that isn't. Who knows? I mean, it could end up that way. Because, again, the United States of America can hit them with an antitrust lawsuit. They cannot hit Piff with an antitrust lawsuit. So if Piff decides to buy the PGA Tour or to go, we want 3 seats on the board, they can't hit Piff with an antitrust lawsuit if they're based in another country. And that's kind of what I was alluding to when we were talking before this. And if it doesn't go through and that happens, I could – now, is that 10 years from now? Maybe. But, that could happen. If you get guys like Rahm and Cantlay and all these guys are like, well, you were going to take it. Now I am taking this money.
Right.
Goodbye, kind of thing. Or it might just work out to where it's like, if the PGA Tour knows they're painted into a corner and be like, actually, we're kidding. You guys can play on this tour too. Like, that probably might be how it works out.
Yeah. All right. Tinfoil hat. This deal doesn't go through. Jay Monahan's out. Tiger Woods, new PGA Tour commissioner.
I would 100% take that.
Only way that players will stay. Only way.
It probably would be the only way.
And the only thing that would add value to the tour.
Yeah, because, him himself is a $2 billion brand, right? Like, and all clearly, we found this out when he won the Masters back in 2019, right? these guys love. I mean, they're us, right? They grew up watching this guy play. Like there is no one they respect more in the world than him. And I think the way even when this was all going down last year, like the way he kind of went about it, like he wasn't playing, but he showed up.
Oh yeah,
and helped them talk it through and all this stuff. Like, wouldn't be bad. It probably would be the only way the PGA Tour could be like, "What's our trump card? That's our trump card."
They've played that trump card the last 20 years.
I mean, if you have that trump card and he's still alive, I mean, he might not be walking very well, but he's still alive. You got to play it.
Yeah,
and again, I don't know how you get Jay Monahan out. I don't know what that process looks like. I imagine it's probably pretty hard. Considering two of the loudest voices in PGA Tour were guys that were in the room with him, and they're on his side with this, I don't know. But yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. That was a big tinfoil hat statement there.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. All right, from a hypothetical to a prediction, whether you think this deal goes through or not, what does men's professional golf look like in 5 years? Like, say the deal. Let's start with that. Say the deal goes through. What's the structure?
So I think it's going to be what we just talked about. Yeah. It's going to be like you're going to have the regular PGA Tour events. You're going to have all those guys playing in them. They'll probably play anywhere between 17 to 20 times a year, the big names. And then, I think the fall series, which is no longer going to be happening this year, correct? I think they got rid of fall series this year. Or is it next year? Something like that.
Yeah.
You'll probably see something where it's like, maybe they throw some events in the schedule where the World Golf stuff used to be, where it's like, hey, we have a team tournament, whatever. You can come play in it. It's this week. I think it's going to be some combination of that. It won't be live. It won't be like, come play in this live event.
Yeah.
It'll be like it's a PGA Tour sanctioned event, same format as kind of what live is doing. Because as much however you feel about live, I do know a lot of people that are newer to golf that are like, that makes sense to me. Like, and they like it because every other sport you watch is team oriented for the most part. So it does bring people into the game. So I think they'll probably try to some form of that. Like maybe there's 8 events throughout the year where you have a team event. I think that's probably realistically what it looks like. If it doesn't go through, I think I kind of alluded to it. Like, I think the PGA Tour is going to be backed into a corner where they're going to have to let these guys play on both tours.
Yeah.
And then that's when PGA Tour has a very big sponsorship problem because they already have it with guys that just don't want to play a full 36-week schedule or whatever the hell it is right now.
Right.
Where they don't show up to the Honda. They don't show up to Sanderson Farms or whatever tournament it might be. They don't show up to them. So that's a whole other debate. But I think they'll almost be backed into the corner where they're going to have to let guys take that money and also play on that tour, on Live and PGA Tour.
Yeah. I think, assuming the deal goes through, what we talked about is probably something that'll happen. What I am curious to see is, like, is it enough money that, like, as we've talked about in the past, will they kind of scale the schedule back? Have off weeks. Like, you'll be able to pay these guys.
Every other week has bye weeks and off days. And
right. Like, I wonder if it'll be, a reduced schedule that actually makes more sense for the golfers, right? Instead of creating all these playing opportunities for 300 guys or however many touring pros there are at any given time. I don't know what the feeder system looks like. Is it still going to be Corn Ferry as we know it? Is it going to be something else? The craziest part is, like, the Tour and the PIF, they don't own any of the majors. That's what everybody cares about.
Yeah, that's a whole nother...
The majors can do whatever the hell they want, basically.
That's a whole other piece of the puzzle that we really didn't talk about in all this, but yeah.
The majors, the Ryder Cup. I mean, I know the PGA Tour, they have,
Is it PGA of America that sanctions the
Ryder Cup?
Okay,
now, the interesting part is DP World Tour owns the European rights.
They do.
So technically now the PIF has a stake in the Ryder Cup, but not the PGA Tour. There's just a lot that it could look like. I don't think it'll look too much different. I do think that would be real interest from the players in reducing the schedule, making sure the purses can remain high, things like that. Because it's like, I mean, the money in theory should be there, but it's honestly like funny money, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's making this money for them or anything.
No.
They're not making any money. It's
Nope.
just a foreign government's investment fund just throwing a ton of money at this thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I don't know. My guess is what we just talked about is probably what it looks like.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right.
Oh, that was a lot.
That was a lot.
Hand me another beer. I feel like I need another one here.
That was a lot. And, you know, the funny thing is like, everybody wants to talk. And I even told you, I was like, Tuesday, I was like, oh, God, let's get on and start talking about this right now. I'm like, and the more the week went on, I'm like, man, I want to talk about it. But it's like, no, realistically, not even the players know what's going to happen, right? It's fun to talk about, and maybe it ends up being something really cool, despite where the money comes from. Maybe something out of this, you know, makes golf better. I hope it does.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Look,
It's just a lot to talk about.
We talked about it. Look, we're not there yet in terms of the big boy podcast and stuff, but I cannot tell you how many emergency reaction, blah, 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 tweets and posts.
Yeah, and I
videos
think I
and
feel a
stuff
lot
saw.
different today than I did last Tuesday about it.
Yeah, that's I think why we were kind of intentional about.
I kind
taking
of was
some
like
time.
last Tuesday, I was like, fuck Jay Monahan, let's drag him through the streets.
you and Grayson Murray.
Yeah, me and Grayson were going to hog tie him and drag him through the streets of Toronto.
Yeah, speaking of Toronto, RBC Canadian Open. I actually watched probably the last 5 or 6 holes of this one. I was
I
able
did
to sit
too.
down. We got back from our trip on Sunday afternoon. So after my son's football game, sat down and watched a little bit. Nick Taylor wins in a playoff over Tommy Fleetwood. I don't know if I can talk about Tommy. It's only going to make me mad. But congrats to Nick. First Canadian to win it in 69 years. Awesome scene.
Shout out to Mike Weir just pumping beers back there when he was watching the playoff. Did you see that? When they kept showing the shot of the players? Mike Weir just had a tall boy Modelo the whole time.
Oh, man.
Love it. I love me some Mike Weir too.
I
But-
think, you know, that's a blind spot for me. Just like, obviously I know he won the Masters, but like, that's a guy I want to know a little bit more about.
Yeah,
I
he's
think.
awesome.
Which I think, is he a President's Cup captain?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'll be cool to get to see.
But I
him
thought it
on
was
that.
cool. It was like you had the Canadian guys back there watching, rooting for Nick, obviously. And then you had like the European guys back there, mostly English guys like Justin Rose and Hadden and all those guys
and
back
Lowry,
there.
yeah.
They were all sitting there watching. I thought that was really cool to like, they were that involved. And especially on a major week, like most guys are like, especially if they're not winning that tournament, like they're on a jet an hour after they're on the last freaking green and they're heading to, you know, to go practice for a major. And those dudes stuck around for 4 holes.
It reminded me of us on Memorial Day sticking around for a pillow fight of a playoff. because
Yeah, God,
Dude,
that
they-
is shout out to Jeff who was in that playoff that we watched. He was like, "Did that remind you of anything?" That's what he told me today. I'm like, "Yeah, it reminded me of a playoff I watched 2 weeks ago."
Yeah.
Just
Freaking
very It turned into a thrilling finish, but just uninspiring golf.
Okay,
being played in this playoff.
the best shot of the whole thing was Nick Taylor hitting if I miss-hit this 3-wood, it's going to be a sick layup. And just like skanky low off the face, run it up there. And
Dude,
it's
I
like,
thought at
that's
first
fine.
he topped it. I swear,
Dude,
like
it
was millimeters from a top. Millimeters.
We were close. That was close to a Waffle House ball situation for sure.
Or what did I
Tim
say?
Hortons ball? No.
No, I was like, that was 35% of a shank.
Yeah, that was.
It didn't go full shank. It was just 35%.
So yeah, he obviously buries the 72-foot eagle right in my face, right in on my Tommy Fleetwood Betts face. Throw him out the window. Tommy.
Just an electric scene, though.
Oh, look.
Screw Tommy. We don't want to hear about Tommy and your bets. I was rooting for Nick Taylor.
That's
Look,
fine.
I'm an outgoing hater of Canadians, but you got Mike Weir back there pumping some Modelo's. You got all of his buddies back there rooting and all. Like, I got pulled in a little bit. Like, imagine if a U.S. golfer doesn't win the U.S. Open for 60 years.
Yeah, I mean,
I was rooting for the underdog. I
no,
was.
for sure, cool. I was rooting for me. Well, I'll be clear about that.
That's fair.
Nick
That's
Taylor
fair.
was the best story that could have happened outside of me winning something on that. But anyway, 75 to open the tournament.
I saw that.
Shoots a 63 on Saturday. to get himself back in it, and then 66, get in the playoff. Just awesome on the last hole to make that birdie. Didn't have the best lie with his chip, and then to make that putt coming down the hill to force the playoff was awesome. And then, obviously, the best part of all of this, Adam Hadwin getting the absolute best play better moment of all time.
Isn't that like the worst thing of like not being recognized? Is like you're a professional golfer, you have like all this inside the ropes access, and a freaking security guard who's probably been there all week just houses you as you're running out with a bottle of champagne.
I mean, not only did you play in the tournament, you are Canadian at the Canadian Open.
It's not like you had like, I don't know, like some South African run out there. They don't even like maybe know who he is or whatever. He's Canadian.
He's a PGA Tour winner. Just gets absolutely Terry Tate office linebacker lit the hell up by this guy. Like the best form tackle you could ever imagine.
I mean, it was, and it's like he speared him. That's a flag in the NFL, by the way.
No doubt. That's roughing the passer.
You cannot land all your body weight on that guy.
You cannot bury him in the turf. Absolutely correct.
I mean, that was, and the funniest thing is they said it on the broadcast. They're like, and Adam Hadwin just got tackled by security running on the green. And like, I'm like, we got to find this video now. Like everybody was scouring the internets for someone that actually took a video.
And then there was like 3-4 different angles of it that came out. Each one was like better and better.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's okay because honestly, he could have trying to brace the fall.
That was a thick boy that took him down.
Well, that and you just put your hand out trying to brace your fall. How many times? Elbow, wrist, shoulder, anything.
So great.
His wife was just an awesome tweet after the fact about how in true Canadian fashion he actually apologized to the security guard.
Did you see the U.S. Open? So he got the U.S. Open today?
Yes.
They put a hard hat. Yeah. They put a hard hat and like construction stuff in his locker. It was like the people that run security for the U.S. Open put like a note in there of like, we're here for your protection and all this stuff. It was good. It was a good touch after that happened to him the day before.
God, this kind of makes me want to give him the back 9 6-pack.
Just because. Like I don't know what he finished. I meant to look it up, but
I don't know either. We could look up.
But he might just get it just because he needed that to take that hit. And he might have had one, actually.
That was a big bottle of champagne.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know what he Well, while you're doing that, I'll do some other notables. Let's start with Justin Rose, got an 8th. He was one of those guys hanging around. Seemed like the Englishman played really well this week.
Yeah.
Terrell,
I mean, just awesome Sunday with a double.
Yeah.
64 on Sunday with a double. He had 2 64s and 2 72s. Just
Rory with the very flat Sunday was kind of sad, seeing him like kind of right there, and you're like, oh, like I could see like a 64 from him today or 65, and it's like maybe he wins, and
it feels like it's becoming a trend, right?
He was like 2 over through the first, the front 9. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
I think I saw he was either first or second off the tee for the week, and again, just like in the 40s on approach. Like,
there's someone. I think there's a Rory wedge tracker now. On God. Twitter. There's a Twitter. I'll have to find it, and I swear if I find it, we can post it on our page. But someone is tracking his shots gained every hole he hits a wedge during the round, and then at the end of the round they post it.
I hope he never hears about that because that would just be. He's already
actually he started out the week decent, and then it just got like progressively worse throughout the week. It was kind of wild. And it may not be like a Rory wedge tracker. It's like some guy is tracking it every round. Okay. I saw someone quote tweet it, and I was like, "This is kind of interesting." I know I followed him because I'm like, I want to see this every time he plays.
Man, I am struggle busing to find where Adam Hadwin finished. This is great.
So he shot even on Sunday. Still got a top 10, but it was kind of a flat top 10, I would say. Block Party missing his second cut post PGA Championship 77-69. And then just coming off of a missed cut technically at the U.S. Open qualifier on Monday up there in Toronto as well.
Hey, respect to Blocky though with the 77-69. I mean,
hey,
3 under in round 2.
Again, it just seems like he's just got so much going on. It's like it's hard. Like, it's not his job to come out and play professional golf. Like, his job is to run a golf course. And he said, I listened to him on, love the guys over at Subpar, but they finally got the chance to interview him this week. And they were interviewing him like FaceTime or whatever. He's doing fucking payroll for the golf course.
Hell yeah.
Before he was like heading out for the U.S. Open qualifier. So, like, he's just got, like, it's not his job. So for him, I think it's a cool opportunity, get to go out. He said on that podcast that he's got some other opportunities. I guess if you don't win the PGA of America championship, you can only do like 4 starts. So he's already got 3. He's got 1 more lined up. They actually have to pass something so he can get additional starts on tours.
Jeez.
So he's wanting to do 8. So maybe that'll get passed and we'll see him a couple more times. But he's just got a lot going on. It's like, that's not his job. And for him to come out and, he broke par one day. It's still pretty cool. So,
yeah, by the way, Adam Hadwin finished 11 under. I think it was a tie for 12th.
Oh,
so not worthy enough for the back 9-6 back then. I guess let's get to that. This is a sad week for who needed the back 9-6 back. There was some numbers out there.
I just think the course plays relatively easy, so it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint somebody when that happens.
Not easy enough, though, based on...
Clearly.
There were a couple 80s on the board. It was hard to distinguish kind of which one to pick, so I had to go back to the
But
roots.
You got to remember, this is an Open, so there were guys in this tournament that are not regular PGA Tour members.
That's a great point, and this guy is a regular PGA Tour member.
This guy is.
Been around for a while, struggled, had ups and downs. I honestly kind of feel bad. I always liked him as a player. Kind of went in the wilderness and seems to, like, not be coming out of it.
Yeah, it felt like 3 or 4 years ago it was like kind of up and comer, kind of, I don't know, like just felt like he was kind of could take a track to be one of the better players on tour, and he just really hasn't done much recently.
Yeah, and so I had to, like I said, I had to go back to the roots of the back 9-6 pack, right? Like, what defines it? And this was the 80 that most defined it. Nick Watney in round 1 shot 80. His front 9, he had a double and 2 bogeys, all pars from there, so no birdies, shoots 40.
Not great.
But that's the perfect, you need the back 9-6 back to try to flip the mo.
Refill the engines.
Got to flip the mo. He might have done it, I don't know. He did birdie his 11th hole today. But then he comes home with a bogey, 2 more bogeys after that, and a double for another 40.
Oof. A 1 birdie 80 for a PGA Tour professional.
Sounds like he made the mistake of just like, I'm gonna get a
I'll get a power bar at the turn or something, a protein bar.
Maybe he grabbed 2 beers, but you got to commit.
Yeah,
to get the benefits, reap the rewards.
As we said in the Wednesday Night League, you're like, how many beers are you getting? I'm like, I'm getting 6. I'm staying on brand, and I know what works. You can't go away from it.
I did not stay on brand, and it did not work.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
not surprised. So that's what he needed. Maybe he got a couple. It just wasn't enough. We all know it's not enough. I always tell people, they're like, I got a back 9 8-pack. I'm like, 6 is a minimum. If you go above and beyond, that's your prerogative, okay?
Yeah.
But 6 is a minimum.
So yeah, Nick Watney, this week, you needed the back 9-6 pack. Hopefully this gives him the bump. We've been tracking the bump.
Is he in the U.S. Open, though?
Highly doubt it.
I was going to say,
doubt it.
He's not played well for a couple years now.
Maybe we'll catch him at the Barbasol,
Oh, that would be awesome. We need to figure out who's going to be at the Barbasol, and we need to have trophies made so we can maybe try to hand these out to these guys.
I'm sure that'll go over well with security. We're going to get Adam Hadwin out there with you walking around. Trying to hand out spray painted beer cans or something.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay. From one Open to the other, U.S. Open, baby.
My favorite major.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, my favorite. All because
I've thought about. Go ahead, because I've thought about
carnage.
This.
I like carnage.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some carnage this week. I mean, if you've even seen pictures of the course, I've been following USGA on Instagram. They've been doing flyovers of the course and different videos. So shout out to USGA. It's actually pretty cool what they've done. There's going to be some carnage this week. There's going to be some high scores. And my guess is the winner is going to be slightly under par, if not close to even or a little over, is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough because they should have good conditions. It's LA. U.S. Opens have been trending a little easier.
That's why I said
recently.
I think it could be slightly under.
I just don't know enough about the course personally to like what's the. I mean, I see like the thick rough around the greens and stuff. Like, what's because the fairways are wider.
Yeah, but it's Bermuda rough.
That's true. So this is a weird California course because it's Bermuda rough and it's bent greens.
Yes.
Usually you see like,
and I'll tell you,
that.
like as bad as Kentucky bluegrass can get and fescue and how thick that stuff can get, I don't want anything to do with thick Bermuda rough. Bermuda is, and I guess it's because we didn't grow up in the South, but I hate trying to pitch the ball or hit an iron out of Bermuda grass, like rough, like fairway, whatever. But rough Bermuda, and that stuff can sit down, and there's never a time you get a good lie in Bermuda. Like if it's that thick, it's going to be nasty.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really know what to expect score-wise. We didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm just curious because we're here. Third major. Power rank the majors you would want to win.
U.S. Open would be 1. Masters would be 2. Open would be 3. And then PGA would be 4.
Whoa, this is pretty different for us then. I struggle with this. It's really close at the top for me. I think I lean Masters purely because I want to just go back there until I can't walk anymore.
And part of it, yes, I get that.
I want to go to the Champions Dinner.
When I say the U.S. Open is my favorite, people are like, you don't even get a full exemption into that for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I get that, but it's like there's something about winning your national, like
yes, I agree. That's the allure.
Your national championship.
Number 2 for me is the Open. The Claret Jug is the GOAT.
Okay,
trophies.
it is the best trophy.
Yeah,
as far as all the majors for sure.
And that's another one where you kind of get to decide when you want to tap out.
Yeah,
the U.S. Open is 3rd for me, and then PGA's DFL. I would still want to win it, but
yeah,
I think
US
that's my
Open's
order.
3rd for you.
It's so tough. The other part too is like I think what are my 2 most like favorite golf watching experiences, and it's the Masters and the Open.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that. If you ask me which ones do I enjoy watching the most, I would say the Masters and the Open, because the Masters is gusta, whatever. The Open is like, dude, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. And sit on the couch.
I'm just going to stay up overnight. Yeah.
Heck, I did that. I remember my family was out of town one time, and like it was Thursday, and we had like a night out with a bunch of people from work, and got home at like 1:30, and I was like, shit, golf's gonna be on an hour and a half. I'm like, I'm fucking staying up. I stayed up and just ran it through, and
Dude, there's just something about when you get those navy and yellow leaderboards with the red numbers, and NBC is just cranking the bagpipes on you.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that.
The one thing that sucks is like the Stampede is forever apparently open weekend.
It is. It's always been that way.
And it just kills me.
It is. Yeah, it does suck. But back to the U.S. Open.
Yes, sorry.
Underrated part of this U.S. Open, West Coast.
Yes.
We talked about it a little bit last week. But when you've got the leaders, like I'm going to be able to have my morning. Leaders don't tee off till 11, or people don't start teeing off till like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
10, the good players go off at 11 in the first couple rounds. That's awesome. And then you get into the weekend, Friday, I'm golfing. I'm going to be done around 5. I'm still going to be able to see the second half of the tee times and watch it on a Friday night until 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, it's the best. That's why the West Coast swing is like so near and dear. It happens in the winter for us, so we're like getting glimpses of warm weather, and it's on in prime time. So
prime time golf is underrated for sure. Yeah.
All right, so I know you and I both kind of just briefly looked at odds and whatnot. I mentioned last week I got the max home bet already in. I had him at 32 to 1.
I think I said I did too. Yeah, I got him at 23 to 1.
I might go back in on it. He's still flirting around at 30. If you look in some other, FanDuel has him at 30 right now.
Yeah, he's 2,800 on DraftKings right now.
The favorite, Scotty Scheffler, no surprise, at 7 to 1.
I don't know how I like his putting on necessarily on a U.S. Open course. Can kind of get away with it at some other places.
See, I'm on the opposite. We talked about this a little bit before.
I get ball striking is a very big part of the game, but it's like in the U.S. Open, people that win are the ones that are like escape artists with their putter. You know, they find a way to make that 15-foot par putt or a bunch of 10-foot par putts or whatever it might be. He is just not in any shape or form to be able to do that, like the way he's putting. So he's going to have to put on another absolute ball striking clinic if he's going to win.
So here's a little known fact, but you know who else is doing that right now? John Rahm, who is 9-1. John Rahm in California just speaks to me. I don't like the number, but you can never count him out, obviously. Look, Brooks might be the, I got my swagger back gif.
I mean, God, you'd be dumb for being a third favorite. You'd be dumb to not put a little bit of money on him.
I don't know how I'm going to bet this tournament yet. Probably going to look more at like matchups, maybe some first round leader stuff once I see weather and tee times.
I mean, we've seen this game before. He is the fucking Terminator when he gets into these moods. And like,
look, I would be here for another Brooks Koepka major run like we had.
Like, it feels like the PGA Championship was like, they're like, all right, we're gonna open the Bears cage and just like let him walk out, and then like anything that happens after that is like very possible. I mean, and him winning is very, very possible.
He might have won the Masters if the weather didn't get all weird. Who knows?
I mean, he won one and he came very close to winning the other one. And it's like maybe that taste of blood at the PGA Championship is going to be exactly what he needs to get back into that Terminator that he was at one point in majors. But I mean, I'm going to have some money on him. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm going to have some money on him. But I mean, again, you know, so let's talk about who we think.
Hold on.
Okay, you go ahead, and then we're going to talk about who we think is going to win.
I'm going to take a lock that it's someone I don't think will win. Patrick Cantlay is not winning the US
Open. No, he is
Open.
not winning the U.S. Open. He is not.
Now, everybody go place your bets on Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah. He's just not been good this year. And, like, there's not been, like, Scotty, you're like, oh, my God, he's striking the crap out of the ball. He's just not putting well. It's like, you know, Rahm, it's like, well, he's won, you know, multiple times this year. All these guys have something where it's like they fall back on, like he's doing that really well. Patrick's just not done anything particularly like really well. It's just kind of been all average.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't bode well in a major championship.
So I'm going to just, before we actually make a prediction, a couple guys that I'm just watching the odds on, I want to see if they drift a little. Xander hasn't really been doing a lot right now. He's a U.S. Open god, though. Lots of really good finishes in U.S. Opens. If he gets north of 20, that might be a number I like.
Yeah, I don't like him at 18-1.
No, look, Colin Morikawa is at 35-1 right now. I'm just hopeful his back's fine, but it might scare people off, and you might get a little drift. If you see Colin Morikawa at 40 or more, that's like an auto bet for me. Yes. In California, too.
Yeah. Whew. So let's do this. Why don't you pick what some people would consider a front runner, and then pick a long shot that you think has a decent chance at winning?
Okay. Look, we just talked about it. I think of the top of the board, it's crazy, but I think I trust Brooks the most.
Yeah. That was going to be he would be my favorite, that I'm like, he's doing everything pretty damn good right now. Don't trust Scotty's putter. Like I said, U.S. Open, there's going to come a time, regardless of how well you're hitting the ball, that you're going to have to make some par putts.
I will say, if Scotty strikes it like he has been and does make a few putts, he might win by
again,
8 shots.
You know how putting works. It's just not something that comes back overnight.
I know, but if
especially when it's clearly mental at this point. It's not ability.
He might have figured it out. He's had an off week. He might have figured it out. He had a heater on Sunday at Memorial. True. I think he
also still missed a 3-footer.
He could, but I know, but he could just hit every fairway and green, and it just might not matter.
And that might bode well in the U.S. Open, yeah. I mean,
you just make enough to hang around, and everyone else is making bogeys. Anyway.
So you trust Brooks as far as a favorite.
I think the top...
Long shot. Yeah. What's your long shot?
How deep you want for a long shot?
I mean, I feel like they've got to be at least 28-1 at the very minimum.
When you're just speaking my language, I'm going to say a name and duck. Jordan Spieth.
I saw him in there. I don't know.
I think the only reason...
I get it. We bet, me and you bet Jordan Spieth every week.
He's been driving the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, which is going to be good for him at if keeping it in the fairway, things like that.
The fairways are wider. There's not it's not, a winged foot, it's not 20-yard fairways with thick ass rough everywhere. I don't know. I love it.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
He's got the best short game on tour, probably.
I don't hate it. I love Jordan. I bet him almost every week. So I don't hate that. That's a good one. Well, I already said my favorite would be Brooks. I think he's just got that Terminator look. I mean, he's been there every major this year so far. He's got a win. It feels like his tournament to lose, kind of. Yeah. But my long shot, and I hate doing this because it's the U.S. Open, I really like Justin Rose.
I know it. See, damn it. I was going to mention it.
I really like Justin Rose. And, man, one, he's won it before. So he's proven that he can win on a U.S. Open course. Now, he's a little older now, and that might...
Let's just make a pact right now. Let's bet Justin Rose top 10.
Done.
Plus 330.
Yeah, and again, that's if you don't like him to win, you should look at his top 10 numbers. I mean, that is good odds. Plus 330.
Plus 750 for a top 5.
I mean, he's going to be there. He's clearly playing well. He came in 8th this week.
Didn't have a good Sunday. I think
he's another guy that just seems like when the courses get hard, he's just kind of there.
Major championship golf is where
he just knows. He just knows how to play major championships. And what he doesn't. I mean, he's not going to win every time, but he just seems to always be like right there. And with the U.S. Open, with carnage and that can happen, give me a guy that's there because it might just happen that the carnage just happens so bad that if he's in third place, he might be in first place. It could happen. But when I saw them like 40-1, I'm like, give me my boy.
Yeah, he just feels like I don't think he's going to win, but
give me my name, brother.
It'll be tough for me not to see him around.
Again, and
he was
I'm going to take him
at the PGA Championship.
I saw those odds for top 10. I'm like, you're definitely getting a top 10 bet.
Yeah,
but that would be my long shot. 40-1. That's a pretty big long shot. I mean, my heart wants Max Homa to win.
I do too.
He's just, I feels like he's not been playing the greatest golf, but you get him back in California, you never know what's going to happen. So, but those are my picks.
I can't look at an odds board and just do this right now. I need to wait.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot around that. Tony Finau's not been playing well.
No, I'm never making that mistake again. I laid my livelihood down on the.
It was so bad at the PGA Championship.
No. I've died on that horse before. I'm not doing it again. No chance.
We haven't been doing this podcast long enough, but I've been preaching if you see Justin Thomas higher than 30-1, you auto bet it. 50-1.
You just have to assume that he's going to figure it out at some point. And when is that going to be? It might not be this year. But man, when he does figure it out, he's going to win.
That's the thing. I think it might just be
like every other tournament, he's been 20-1, 19-1 if it's a bad field. Like he's been some high odds.
I think I had him 30-1 or something like that at the PGA. Yeah. Didn't do anything for us.
So when he wins, you're going to get a big payday. Like if you keep betting him, and he's going to eventually figire it out.
Will Justin Thomas win one of the next 50 tournaments he plays? Yes.
Yes. And if you can get him at plus over 20-1 odds, it's a no-brainer. So
anyway,
all right, let's move on. U.S. Open, get in front of a TV. Things don't start to kick off until about 10 a.m. Every day, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be a cool course, too.
Yeah, absolute blast. All right, it's that time. Patio beers.
Mine's not as juicy, but I'll say it. Anything goes on the patio, but not as juicy as this. maybe it might. I don't know. It's not as juicy as last week.
Mine's not juicy, but we're going to have a fun conversation. I can guarantee that.
Actually, you know what? I'm changing mine on the fly of what I'm going to ask you.
Oh, man.
And this is going to pin us both in the corner.
You're already in my head.
we need some we need some invigorating talk after the whole LIV PGA Tour thing. I was saving this question for another time, and you went first last week, so I'm going to go first this time.
Oh.
And I'm changing this on the fly.
Okay.
I asked the question last week.
Oh, my God.
If your wife could change one thing about you, what would it be? We're going to flip-flop the question now. If you could change one thing about your wife, what would it be? And there is no easy ways out. Don't give me no fucking cupcake answer.
So this is funny because Susie and I talked about this after she listened to the podcast.
Damn it.
So I've already told her. Now
you have a precursor to her hearing this.
The funny part is I don't think I can remember what I said, that's a whole other thing. The memory's gone. Like once you have kids, it's gone. I know I mentioned to her, so she's going to kill me for airing some of the stuff out. She has a habit, which our son has started to pick up, of just like leaving socks around the house, like taking them off and like putting them somewhere to use later. Sometimes it's even on a counter, which, is what it is. So that's one thing. We're going to go, I went 3 deep on myself. I'm going to go 3 deep here as well. The other thing is, look, she's in charge of all of the clothes and stuff that come in and out of the house, right? Like she's shopping, doing all that stuff. Part of the problem is she will cut the tags off of them and leave the tags in the little, whatever that little plastic connector is that puts the tag on the clothes, will be sitting on the counter instead of 2 feet away, the garbage can. So these are just like the little things, right? That's like me leaving the lint in the dryer. The bigger thing, and this is what I told her, so hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing. She has a habit of like criticizing me for something, but then also doing that thing. And so it's the hypocrite thing that really gets me. That's the one thing I would change. It's, I'll get yelled at for leaving my shoes somewhere not where they belong. Or, I walk in the house and I'll set my bag down.
Next thing you know, you're tripping over her shoes.
And her shoes are there too. Or there's a bag from her, school dates in my chair for dinner or whatever. It's that thing, right? That's the thing for sure. Okay. And her and I have talked about it, so hopefully this is all kosher. But this is all on you if either of us gets in trouble.
All right. So this is going to sound so petty. And the only reason I'm going to say this is because it literally happened last week. So, I don't know if anybody's ever read this book about what your love language is.
Okay, I've not read it, but I'm aware.
Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
Acts of service,
sure,
touch, things like she is clearly acts of service. She obviously we love each other. Like we hold hands, like we've held hands. Like we have 3 kids for God's sakes. But her main love language is not touch. Mine is. I like touching people. I don't know. Even when I talk to somebody, I'll touch them. I'll touch their shoulder, or pat their back or something. I'm just a toucher, and not in a weird way, but just I do. I touch. With her, it's not. And last week, I don't know if a bug bit my back or something. It was something really bad, and I'm my back itch is so fucking bad. I'm can you please itch it? She refused to itch. She will. I can count on one hand how many times she's itched my back in 10 years, almost 11 years of marriage. She refuses. Again, I tell you, it's going to sound petty. She refuses to itch my back.
I mean, I would refuse to itch your back. You were
over the shirt? I mean, come on.
Well, look,
come on. I'm not asking you to give me a massage or something. I'm so I don't have to go rub against a wall or a corner or something like that. She refuses to itch my back. At most, pretty much ever. Like I said, less than 5 times in 11 years of marriage, she's itched my back. Not unprompted, right?
Yeah.
Hey, can God, I got this itch. Like, I
just say
can't
no.
reach it. Like, my arm just doesn't bend that way. It's just like, no. And it's so bad. You ready? One of my daughters got me a back scratcher for
I was going
Christmas.
to ask, have you been gifted a back
She
scratcher?
got me a back scratcher because she hears me ask sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, with this, you won't have to ask anymore because mom's going to say no.
Look, this is tough.
It's very petty.
I know, but this is tough. Look, if hers is acts of service and she's married to you, oh, Jesus.
Good luck.
And then yours is touch, and this is a situation with the whole back. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys okay?
Yeah. Well, then my other thing was like, if I had to go deeper, because you did name a couple, like, same thing, right? Has no desire to do the dishes, but then, like, expect, like, even when because I don't cook every time. Like, when she cooks, like, okay, I'm doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Like, that's the trade-off you make.
Sure.
There have been times when I cooked and then I also do the dishes. But if that was me, I would get in trouble for it.
Yeah, no.
Or just anything, right?
I think that's just that's a pretty generic.
Or letting my laundry get stacked
relationship.
up and it's like, well, you let your laundry get like dirty. Like, oh, I got to do laundry today. Like, that happens all the time. Like, mine does that too. And it's like, when are you going to do your laundry? Like, you're just going to let it sit there? Like, yours was like as high as Everest not even a day ago. But now that yours is done, now I look like the bad guy. But
Yeah.
if I had to go deeper, that would be my next one. But I'm terrible at acts of service. I go on runs where I'm really good at
You
it.
catch a heater.
But during golf season is bad.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I was so happy we've been in a drought. I don't have to cut the grass. Like, my grass is just not growing right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those would be mine.
I should have expected this question when you said it was better than last week's. I should have known you were just going to.
I set us up and then I flipped it on us.
Yeah, this is going to be.
My wife doesn't listen to this.
Like I said, Susie and I talked about this.
This will be the
already.
first episode she listens to for sure, and I'm just going to catch it.
I'm going to give her the time code. Just tell her, hey,
like, you don't
Danielle,
have to listen to the whole thing. Just go.
God,
right
you
here.
got to listen to this segment. It's just so good. Yeah.
Oh,
No, that's a good one. Look, we're going to have. I told you we'd have fun with this one. I think it's fun. Speaking of my wife, she screenshotted something from Twitter and sent it to me and said, hey, this might be a good one to have. I knew I wanted something lighthearted for this because I was probably going to be bummed out about the live talk. All right, I'll clarify if you need me to, because it's kind of a weird way it's worded. But what is the best song that only exists within a TV show or a movie? You know what I mean? Like, it's a fake song, right?
Man.
I have a no-doubter answer, and I have a full list of honorable mentions because, of course.
Like, it's like it was made for a show. Like, it's not like some artist that made it.
Yeah, it's not like a
that.
soundtrack song or something. You know, it's like it exists purely in that world of that show
There's
or
some
movie.
really good ones. Let me think about those for a second. I have a couple that came to my mind.
Okay.
One is funny. One is like legit.
Okay.
So my funny one is Electric City from Office when Michael and
Scream the
Dwight.
Electric City is one of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the first one that kind of came to my mind. Like, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's never not funny. Like, when they showed that video.
Oh, so good.
I mean, like, I think the most famous one would be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even consider that, but yeah, that would count for me.
Like, that was the first one. When you said that, I'm like, it's got to be the Fresh Prince.
Yeah, the actual
intro
theme song, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's a banger.
Definitely a banger.
And probably one of the most popular ones. Like, I guess honorable mention for me would be Game of Thrones.
Okay, I don't know.
That their song for the intro and stuff is really good. That was another one that kind of came to mind, but I was like, it's not better than Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
All right, do you want to hit? I'm gonna hit you with the honorable mentions before
Okay.
we get to the main thing. So Stu's song from The Hangover, aka the Tiger
Oh my
song.
god, I didn't even think about that. Holy crap, that's such a good one. That's
So
a good
good.
honorable mention.
Scotty Doesn't Know from Eurotrip.
Oh my god! How did I not think of that one? I guess if I'd had time to think about it, I probably would have came
That's
up
the
with
only
that
reason
one.
I've thought of these.
Oh, that's such a good one, especially for when we grew up. It's that was the song.
This is an underrated comedy, I think, overall, and it's close to cracking the top 3 for me, I think. But from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Inside of You.
Oh my god. That's such a good one too. And honestly, swear to God, his vampire song from that same movie is pretty fucking good too.
Oh God, hell yeah! That one, Dracula's Lament, might be better. That's also on the honorable mention list. Yeah. Such a good. I mean, that movie goes hard. I love that movie.
It does.
So my favorite, and I think a clear winner, because Mouse Rat bangs. 5,000 Candles in the Wind.
Oh my God. Why did I not think about that? Holy shit. Or anything from Andy Dwyer.
Dude, the Pit?
Yeah.
Banger.
Dude, Mouse Rat is the best hypothetical band in the world.
Unquestioned.
They have all bangers.
Yeah.
And they've got a slight Dave Matthews sound to them. It's kind of...
It's like Dave Matthews, Pearl Jam, some sort of amalgamation.
Nickelback.
Maybe a little Nickelback in there. Yeah.
A little bit of Creed, maybe, too.
5,000 Candles in the Wind.
Oh, that's such a good... Oh,
my
God
runaway
dang it.
winner.
See, I think I would have came up with that one, too, if I had, a day to think about it. I would have probably came across all those at some point.
Yeah.
At some point.
R.I.P. Lil Sebastian.
Yeah. God dang, that's such a good song. Oh, those were good. That was a good question, because I'm still sitting here thinking about, I feel like I'm missing one.
Oh, there's so many more.
I feel like I 100% feel like I'm missing one. But Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I'm there's 2 in that movie that I'm those are fucking awesome. God.
By the way, shout out Gunth on Dracula's Lament. He can play that on piano. If you didn't know that.
Really? Oh my God.
I think there's a video out there somewhere. It's the best. But yeah.
That was a good question. I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh God. I feel like this episode's exacted a toll on me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree too.
But U.S. Open week, we'll get the energy back. We got some golf. We got league coming up against Wednesday, even though I still stink. You're playing Friday.
Yeah, in a big money game.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you playing with us Saturday or not?
Yes.
Oh, we got it on record. This is on the record.
I'm always on, for the record, I am always on the record.
Always on the record.
Regardless of a hot mic's in front of me or not. But yes, I think I am. I'm
trying to force you to put it into your profile, your bio for your Hall of Fame induction that you were a habitual line stepper. I'm going to get that line in there somehow.
on that real quick. So I obviously found out today, and I'm they need it in a week. They're write this. Yeah, it's always weird writing
It's the weirdest.
Writing about you. I'm writing in third person. Or first, excuse me. Yeah, right? Third
you're
person.
writing in third person, yes. And
it's just Justin did this, and Justin did that, and Justin was part of this. It's it's so weird. But when you guys started firing those over, I'm it's going to be a last second thing, but I feel like I'm going to slide them in.
No, you probably
it's just going to be funny.
You shouldn't, but I'm going to keep pushing for it just because it's fun.
They get some of those got to get slid in there. I think people take it so seriously. I think some of them think that was funny.
I think the one you can easily slide in there is, the easiest is probably the Stampede Champion 2020. That's a good one.
Yeah,
but you could definitely get away with Elite Elk too.
100%.
Yeah,
but. No, I am a habitual line stepper, but hats, we still have a few hats left, just a few. I know you've got a couple that want them, so we've got a couple of those, and we are.
Dude, the Patio Beers hats were absolutely bucking for beach season here.
I know. So a girl that bought, one of the first people that ever bought them, one of Danielle's friends, they went on beach vacation. She's just shooting me photos. I was I freaking love these, and the portrait mode Patio Beers hat, when you need a Tinder profile picture, there you go.
Boom.
So yeah, we've got a few left, and we got some new hats coming out hopefully soon.
Yeah, we're currently in the merch kitchen. We're cooking up some merch,
some logo stuff.
And logos. Finally, the much requested. We're gonna have the logo hats.
Yes.
The 9 emblem will be out there for all.
Yes.
Any and all.
But I do want to say this. This is our 10th episode, right?
Yeah, 10 episodes, yeah.
I know you've gotten some outreach and stuff like that. How appreciative it is we are of people that have taken time out of their day to listen, tell us they listen. You know, it's funny, like I always know someone listens to like bring up a specific point in like the most random part of an episode. And I'm like, well, I know you definitely listen because there's no way you listen for 39 minutes and, you know, decided to talk to me about this, right? So very appreciative. And again, we have fun. I hope everybody else has fun listening to us, but thought it'd be a good thing to bring up in our 10th episode.
No, good point. Good milestone for us to hit. Here's the tens of hundreds of however many more we do. And on that note, I think we can go ahead and wrap it. Enjoy the U.S. Open, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Back 9 Six-Pack. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Back 9 Six-Pack for all your content needs. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers.